Two young YouTubers thought they were filming an innocent prank at a Malaysian airport. They had no idea that their next target was the brother of North Korea's most feared ruler, and they had absolutely no idea that within minutes, their harmless-looking prank would become an international assassination case. What makes this story even more unbelievable is what happened afterward. The two women were arrested. They were facing the possibility of spending years in prison for a murder they claimed they never intended to commit. But then investigators discovered something shocking. The women may not have even known that they were carrying out a murder, so who gave them the substance? Who sent them after the target? And why would anyone want the brother of North Korea's leader dead? This is the strange story of the assassination of Kim Jong-nam. On February 15, 2017, Kim Jong-nam, the older half-brother of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, arrived at Kuala Lumpur International Airport in Malaysia. He was traveling under an assumed identity and was preparing to leave the country. At almost exactly the same time, two young women were inside the airport filming what appeared to be a simple prank video. Their idea was straightforward. They would approach unsuspecting people, put a substance on their face, run away, and then return to apologize and explain that it was only a prank. They had reportedly performed similar pranks before, and according to their account, nothing dangerous had ever happened. But on that day, they were about to choose a target who would change their lives forever. Kim Jong-nam walked through the airport. The two women approached him. One of them moved toward him and quickly placed a substance over his face. Then she ran. The second woman also took part in the attack before leaving the area. At first, everything appeared to have gone exactly as planned, but within moments, something was terribly wrong. Kim Jong-nam began experiencing severe symptoms. He sought help from airport personnel, medical workers were called, and he was rushed away for treatment. The two women were reportedly confused and frightened. They had believed they were participating in a prank. They had no idea why the man had suddenly become seriously ill. Then came the news that changed everything. Kim Jong-nam had died. The incident immediately became an international mystery. Why had a seemingly harmless prank suddenly turned into a fatal attack? Investigators examined the substance used on his face, and what they discovered was horrifying. The substance had contained VX nerve agent, one of the most dangerous chemical warfare agents ever developed. The airport was suddenly the scene of an international assassination investigation. Malaysia had a dead foreign national. The victim was not an ordinary tourist. He was the brother of Kim Jong-un, the leader of North Korea. And the world immediately began asking the same question. Who wanted Kim Jong-nam dead? The Malaysian authorities arrested the two women, but as investigators began examining their backgrounds and movements, something unexpected started to emerge. The women continued to insist that they believed they were participating in a prank, and investigators found evidence that appeared to support at least part of their story. They had previously participated in prank activities. They had approached other people, and they had been told that someone wanted them to perform a similar prank for money. According to the women's account, a man had approached them and presented himself as someone who was interested in their prank videos. He allegedly offered them money to participate. They accepted. They were given the substance that they were supposed to use, and they were told to approach a particular person. But the women claimed they did not know that substances was poisonous. They believed the entire thing was simply another prank. Then, after the attack, the people who had allegedly arranged the prank disappeared. The promised payment never arrived, and the women were left facing the consequences of an assassination they claimed they never intended to carry out. For investigators, this raised an even bigger question. If these two women were not the masterminds, then who was controlling them? The investigation began moving in another direction. The possibility emerged that the women had been manipulated as unwitting participants in a carefully planned assassination, and the identity of the victim made the case even more explosive. Kim Jong-nam was not simply a member of the Kim family. He was the older half-brother of Kim Jong-un. For years, his relationship with North Korea's leadership had been complicated. Kim Jong-nam had spent significant periods outside North Korea. He had lived abroad and had been critical of the country's political system and the leadership of his family. He was also known for expressing opinions that did not always align with the North Korean regime. That made him a politically sensitive figure. And according to the theory pursued by investigators, his connection to the North Korean leadership may have been the reason he became a target. The alleged operation was extraordinarily unusual. Instead of sending a recognizable assassin directly toward Kim Jong-nam, the attackers could use people who appeared to have no connection to the victim. Two young women carrying out what looked like a silly prank could approach someone in a crowded airport without immediately attracting suspicion. That is what made the case so disturbing. The attack did not initially look like an assassination, it looked like a prank. But investigators believed that appearance may have been exactly the point. The women approached the target in public. They used their hands, they walked away. And within a short period of time, the victim was dead. The case soon attracted worldwide attention. North Korea's government denied involvement. But international investigators continued examining possible connections to North Korean operatives. The question was no longer simply who physically carried out the attack. The bigger question was who had designed it, who selected the target, who provided the substance, who instructed the women, and who expected them to disappear after the operation. The investigation eventually led authorities toward individuals believed to have links with North Korea. The two women, however, remained at the center of the legal battle. Their defense was simple. They were not assassins, they were prank performers, they believed the substance was harmless, and they had been manipulated into becoming the final step in someone else's plan. The case became one of the most unusual murder trials in modern Southeast Asian history. For years, the two women faced the possibility of the harshest punishment. The entire world watched as the legal proceedings continued. But then the case took another unexpected turn. Charges against the women were eventually dropped or reduced through the Malaysian legal process, and they were ultimately released. After years of uncertainty, they were able to leave Malaysia. Their lives had been completely transformed by an incident they claimed they never understood. But the mystery did not end there. There was another strange detail surrounding the story. Reports later emerged about money and gifts that the women allegedly received or were promised after the incident. The source of those gifts and the identity of anyone who may have sent them became part of the larger mystery surrounding the assassination. Exactly who was responsible for every part of the operation has remained the subject of intense debate. But one thing is clear. Two women entered an airport believing they were making a prank video. One man entered the same airport carrying a completely different secret. And within minutes, their paths crossed. The result was fatal. Kim Jong-nam was dead. The women were arrested. An international investigation began, and a seemingly ridiculous prank became evidence in one of the world's most bizarre political assassinations. Perhaps the most disturbing part of the story is how ordinary the beginning looked. There was no dramatic chase, no obvious gunman, no explosion, no warning, just an airport. A few people walking through a terminal, two young women approaching a man, and a substance placed on his face. That was enough. The assassination demonstrated how difficult it can be to recognize danger when it is disguised as something harmless. And it also showed how easily ordinary people can potentially become pieces in a much larger operation. The two women wanted to make people laugh. Instead, they became central figures in an international murder case. Kim Jong-nam wanted to travel through an airport. Instead, he became the victim of one of the most mysterious assassinations of the decade, and investigators were left trying to answer a question that still fascinates the world. How could something that looked like a simple prank have been connected to such a carefully planned killing? The answer lies in the strange combination of politics, family rivalry, deception, and one of the world's most dangerous poisons. A prank was used as a disguise. Two unsuspecting women became the apparent attackers, and a man connected to one of the world's most secretive governments became the target. The case may have eventually moved through the courts, but the story itself remains one of the strangest examples of how an ordinary moment can hide an extraordinary secret. Because sometimes the most dangerous thing in a room does not look dangerous at all. Sometimes it looks like a joke, and sometimes by the time you realize what is really happening, it is already too late.